And it's nice to see you, as always, Congressman. Thank you so much for joining me. Look, we just heard Clinton say that, well, it's something she said many times before, she still has work to do. She has to show voters who she really is. That said, she's been campaigning for a year now. She's been on the national stage for a quarter century plus. So isn't it a failure on her part if voters don't already have a good sense of her?
Well, it's funny. Sometimes I think we overestimate the amount of details that voters have got into in this campaign already. We overestimate the amount of time voters are willing to invest into looking into the candidates. And really, so much of these, the Republicans in the Congress have done their dead-level best for really a generation to trash Hillary Clinton. And for those who don't really look into these things, they tend to believe them, take at face value what the Republican so-called scandal machine has come up with. And that's what really has caused those negative numbers. But here in Pennsylvania, I think that it's going to come down to a couple of things. You have the 40% on the one side and the 40% on the other side that already have their minds made up. And you're fighting over the middle. And what the middle and Pennsylvania, I think, are interested in are a couple of things. Number one, this topic of decency that has come up after the two conventions, and also national security.
All right. So with regard to trust, though, she's got 3 short months to fix that. What can she do?
Well, I think, for one thing, she needs to show her chops as far as foreign policy. As I mentioned, I think foreign policy is going to be a crucial topic. I mean, here in northeastern Pennsylvania, a lot of people are thinking about voting for Donald Trump, and these are the same people who voted for John F. Kennedy, but maybe also voted for Ronald Reagan. But one thing that Reagan and Kennedy had in common was they worked very hard to shore up our alliances with the Baltic states and to push back against Russian and Soviet adventurism. I was shocked. I was astonished to find out that the only thing the Trump campaign did with the GOP platform was to change it to withdraw support for Ukraine with lethal defensive weapons. I was just amazed because John F. Kennedy and Ronald Reagan are both rolling over in their graves that somebody running for the American presidency would do such a thing. But more than that, what does it say when we want to soften our support for NATO with people in Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania and for goodness sake, Poland? Allies like this. Alex, here in Pennsylvania, so many of us here are descended from people that came from that part of the world and are deeply committed to defending those places. Yeah, absolutely. And certainly you know your state well in terms of that regard. Let's talk about what happened earlier this week. Also someone who knows the state well, your former Governor Ed Rendell. He sat down with Politico and he offered this take on the race in Pennsylvania. Here it is.
I've warned Democrats, Donald Trump is giving a message that is resonating with white, blue-collar workers who worked in factories, who worked on construction crews. We'd be naive if we didn't understand that exists. So this state is in play.
It's in play. Pennsylvania has voted Democratic in the last 6 presidential elections. Does Hillary Clinton have something to do with putting it into play this time around?
Well, obviously, there's a lot of pain. There are a lot of angry people who want change. And so somebody like Trump that comes along and offers any kind of change, just says change, puts it on a hat, and makes people want to believe it. The problem is the details aren't there. That will come out in the debates. But the other thing in Pennsylvania is decency. People really care about decency in this part of the world, and I'm sure that's true across America.
I was going to say.
America obviously runs off the rails every once in a while, and we do regrettable things like we put loyal Japanese Americans in internment camps in World War II, and we had McCarthyism. But remember what killed McCarthyism was that wonderful patriot Joseph Welch, who got right up in McCarthy's grill and said, have you no decency? At long last, have you no decency? And this Mr. Khan, who came out and attacked Trump for his lack of basic decency, and then Trump's indecent response to that has been amazing. We've seen conservative commentators like George Will, and gosh, today David Brooks said on Meet the Press, he called Trump a moral pygmy over that. Decent, right-thinking Republicans are shrinking away from Donald Trump.
This may have some far-reaching effects indeed, because I think a lot of people are just stunned about the whole thing. That said, you mentioned details. I do want unemployment rate in your state. It has been rising steadily since the beginning of this year. It is now higher than the national average. This is under a Democratic president, a Democratic governor. So how do you and Clinton convince voters that voting Democrat is the better choice? What can you tell them?
Well, you know, independent studies have come out, and I'm sure you've seen them, that contrast the number of new jobs, what will happen with employment in this country, depending if Trump or Clinton get elected, and something like 10.5 million new jobs will come into the economy during a Clinton presidency, according to independent economists, while Trump could cost as many as 3 million jobs almost immediately from his lack of economic policies and lack of foresight.
All right, I'll let that be the last word. Pennsylvania Congressman Matt Cartwright, good to see you as always. Thanks so much.
Same here, Alex. So long.